Why did the medieval chicken cross the road? Isn't it an utter shame that medieval cows didn't give milk year-round? Where do oxen come from? These and other questions will be answered right after this. I am Professor Jerome Arkenberg, and I've been teaching a wide variety of history courses at colleges across this country for the past 30 years. In this video, I'm going to tell you about the kinds of livestock raised on farms in medieval Europe and why each particular kind of animal was raised and kept on a medieval farm. It's not always obvious. At the end, I'll have the wrap-up quote in this video, so make sure to stick around for it. But first, make sure to click like, share, and especially subscribe, and that little bell thingy, so I can continue to bring you more great videos just like this one. A variety of domesticated animals were raised in medieval Europe to provide milk, meat, and manure, or to pull plows or carts. And these were primarily horses, cattle, sheep, and pigs. Though goats, donkeys, and mules were important in southern Europe. And here's a bull about to be sold, and oh my, it's an old goat. In England alone, as you could see from some of these charts, there were 1.8 million cows, typically, 75% of whom were dairy cows, about 25% beef cows. And the dairy cows would produce about 100 gallons of milk annually per cow, and 400,000 of them were killed each year for their meat. There were 20 million sheep, more or less, producing 10 gallons of milk apiece annually, with 2 million sheep killed every year. There would have been 100,000 goats, producing 20 gallons of milk annually per capita, but few would have been killed every year for their meat, and about 1.5 million pigs, with 670,000 of them killed every year solely for their meat. Cattle were bred everywhere north of the Alps, as the ox was in wide use as a draft animal. If you don't know where an ox comes from, it's a castrated bull. Ow. Cows also, remember, provided milk. About, as I said, about 100 gallons of it annually, but only if they're calving. So if they're after they have their calf, they will produce milk for a year. So the medieval farmer will need to make sure his dairy cows get pregnant every year. And the milk is normally produced for butter and cheese, as that can be preserved far longer than milk. Of course, at the end of their useful lives, the cow will be killed for their beef and their hides for tanning into leather. Typically, every peasant household, at least in England in 1318, kept about 5 geese, 7 chickens, and 4 roosters. Very few kept ducks or other wild fowl for some reason. So about in total across the country in 1318, about 5 million geese, 6.5 million chickens, and 4 million roosters in the country. Nevertheless, eggs, along with cheese and butter, were consumed less than they could or should have been for their protein. Not that medieval people knew what protein was. Cheese was made throughout medieval Europe, with different regions developing their own distinctive products, such as cheddar from Cheddar Gorge, Cheshire from Chestershire, Parmesan from Parma, Gouda from Gouda, of course, and others. However, medieval physicians said cheese was bad for your health. So the upper classes, who were the ones who could afford a physician, did not mostly eat cheese. We see them here, different groups making cheese is what they're doing. Make sure you remember, blessed are the cheesemakers. And these round things, these are wheels of cheese. Sheep yielded the wool from which most clothing was woven. They could also produce milk to make cheese. Sheep milk tends to be not much in terms of production. I mean, it's more about the quality than the quantity. Sheep can also be automatic manure machines, so to speak, for the fields. And of course, at the end of their lives, they can be killed for their mutton to eat and, of course, to make parchment. Pigs in Europe were raised largely only for their meat, since there was no use for their milk or pigskin. Pigskin tends to be very itchy and scratchy. So they normally had free reign of their local woods until they would be rounded up in November to be fattened for slaughter, which was customarily done in midwinter for most pigs, which is why the Christmas ham and the New Year's ham was so popular. Horses, donkeys, and mules were kept almost exclusively as draft animals, as there is widespread prejudice in Europe against eating them. And even though a horse, much less a donkey or a mule, were costly to keep, they moved quicker than oxen and were better suited to pulling harrows and carts. The wrap-up quote: "The reeve ought to check often that horses, oxen, draft animals, and sheep are looked after and fed as they ought to be, and that they have sufficient pasture, not burdened with the beasts of others. He ought to watch and see to it that the keepers of horses, oxen, draft animals, and sheep do not go to fairs and markets, to wrestling matches, or into taverns, whence the aforesaid animals, being without supervision, may go wandering and cause damage to the lord's or someone else's property. A chief swineherd ought to be on those manors where pigs can support themselves and find their own food without help from the grange, in forest, wood, marsh, or waste. If pigs can be kept in this way, with only a little food from the grange during severe frost, a piggery may be set up in marsh or wood, where the pigs will remain night and day." This is from the Book of the Seneschal, 1275. So let me know what you think of this quote in the comment section below. Also, what you liked about this video and what other historical topics or subjects you'd like to see in future videos. Be sure to click like, share, and especially subscribe, as it will help me bring you more great videos, and click on that little bell thingy so you'll know when the next History Waits for No One video is posted. If you want to know more, there are recommended studies on this topic in the description below, along with other ways to connect with me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the past.